What is going on, everybody? Today I will be previewing the 2024 college football schedule for Pitt. I will go through every game on their schedule and I will predict which games on the schedule I think they will win, and I will also predict which games on the schedule I think they will lose. But as always, before we preview their schedule, let me remind you guys to like the video and also subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. And if you guys love college football, then you'll love this channel, because we upload a ton of college football content and we basically cover everything on this channel. So definitely consider subscribing. And also consider joining my Discord server down in the description below. But anyways, without further ado, let's get into the video. Last season, Pitt finished with a 3-9 record. It was a pretty disappointing season for Pitt, as it was only Pat Narduzzi's second losing season as head coach in 9 seasons, and it was the worst finish to a season for Pitt since 1998. Pitt was coming off the back-to-back ranked seasons in 2021 and 2022, but 2023 was definitely not what you expected to see because they went into that season with an over-under win total of 7. Their offense was very bad last season, but I think Pitt has potential to be better next season. Upgrading the offense has been a top priority for Pat Narduzzi after finishing last in the ACC for scoring last season. Pitt will have a new offensive coordinator with Cade Bell from Western Carolina joining the coaching staff. Pitt has also picked up many offensive linemen from the transfer portal or high school recruiting, but they also add Eli Holston at quarterback, who should create more potential in the quarterback room for Pitt. Pitt returned 64% of production, and they returned their star running back Rodney Hammond Jr., and they returned their number 2 receiver, Konata Mumfield, who was a pretty big guy to have back because he has been a top target the past 3 seasons for Pitt. I am not expecting this team to be great next season, but they do have some positives that could help them improve on the offensive side, and the defense should also be decent. But anyways, let's get into predicting their schedule, and they opened the season playing at home against Kent State. Kent State was horrible last season. Kent State actually went 1-11, and their only win on the season was against an FCS school. Kent State could potentially be a little bit better. They did pick up 4-star linebacker Luke Fulton from Kentucky out of the transfer portal, and they also brought in a quarterback from Troy. But regardless, I do have Pitt beating Kent State and winning their home opener, and this game shouldn't be close, so I have Pitt moving to 1-0 on the season. The next game for Pitt is on the road against Cincinnati. Cincinnati was not that great last season, but Cincinnati actually beat Pitt by 6 points last season, and I could see this game going either way. Cincinnati brought in a potentially underrated quarterback who is 4-star Brendan Sorsby from Indiana. I think that these two teams are both very similar teams heading into next season. Both of these teams did a decent job in the transfer portal. Cincinnati actually brought in 17 transfers, and Cincinnati could be better than Pitt, but I think I trust Pat Narduzzi for Pitt more than I do Scott Satterfield for Cincinnati, and I think Pitt gets their revenge and wins a very close game on the road, so I have Pitt moving to 2-0 on the season. The next game for Pitt will be at home against West Virginia. I expect West Virginia to be solid, and they are a team that could potentially be flying under a lot of people's radars. They actually return 89% of offensive production, which is 3rd in the whole country. The defense will lose a lot of talent, but they have done a very good job in the transfer portal at picking up players who could help out in the secondary, as they brought in 4 cornerbacks. West Virginia quietly was a good team last year, finishing the season with a 9-4 record, and it very well could have been a 10-3 season if they did not slip up in that game against Houston. I think West Virginia honestly has sneaky upside heading into next season, so they could potentially be a sleeper team to win the Big 12. And they really do not get talked about a lot, but I do think Pitt could potentially win this game because they have this game at home, but I do still see Pitt splitting the games between Cincinnati and West Virginia. So since I had Pitt beating Cincinnati, I do have Pitt losing to West Virginia at home, and I have Pitt moving to 2-1 on the season. The next game for Pitt is at home against Youngstown State. Youngstown State is an FCS school. They are probably at the same skill level or even better than Kent State, because they are a pretty solid FCS team, and they are also in a pretty solid FCS league, which is the Missouri Valley League, and they were pretty solid last season, and they made it to the second round of the FCS playoffs. But this should be another easy win on the schedule for Pitt. And this game is honestly probably a tougher game than that game against Kent State, but regardless, I have Pitt winning this game at home and move it to 3-1 on the season. Following the game against Youngstown State, Pitt will have a bye week, and then Pitt will go on the road to play North Carolina. I am not very high in North Carolina. They are near the bottom of the country for return in production, and they lose Drake Bay, who will likely be a first-round NFL draft pick. If they couldn't win with all of the talent the last couple of seasons, I don't think they are going to be much better. In fact, I think they will take a step down next season. The only reason I think North Carolina will win this game is because of the offense. Because the offense should still be solid with Omarion Hampton returning, and they also bring in an interesting transfer portal quarterback in Max Johnson. but I think Mac Brown is at the end of the road, and I don't see North Carolina being in the ACC title race anytime soon because the defense has too many concerns. But Pitt also has their concerns, and Pitt will have this game on the road, so I do have Pitt losing this game and move it to 3-2 on the season, but I would not be surprised if Pitt won this game. The next game for Pitt is at home against California. I think that California is going to be a pretty solid team. That offense has a lot of upside heading into next season. They are top 14 in the country for return in production. They returned Jaden Ott at running back, who was a beast and possibly a top 5 college football running back, but they also have the 4th best transfer portal class in the ACC. I think that California has a lot of positives heading forward, and they should fit in the ACC right away, and I would not be surprised if they overexceed expectations and win 8 or 9 games, because I think they will have one of the top offenses in the ACC. They return a bunch of talent and they stack up their roster even more through the transfer portal. They won 6 games last season, and I expect them to take another step up in 2024, so I have Pitt losing this game to California and move it to 3-3 on the season. Following their game against California, Pitt will have a bye week and then they play Syracuse at home. Syracuse is a similar team to California. They both have done a very good job in the transfer portal and they both won 6 games last season. But I am a bit higher on California because I think Syracuse does really lack talent and skill position players. But on the bright side, I really like to pick up a head coach with Fran Brown, who was the former defensive backs coach for Georgia. Syracuse also returns a bunch of production and they bring in a solid quarterback in Kyle McCord, who has potential to be one of the best quarterbacks in the ACC. I think that Pitt will also lose this game to Syracuse, so I have Pitt moving to 3-4 on the season. The next game for Pitt is on the road against SMU. Again, SMU is kind of in the same conversation as California and Syracuse to me. They have a lot of upside heading forward and they are probably in that 6-8 win conversation. But we do have a lot of questions about how SMU will fare against Power 4 level competition. But I like this SMU team. They are a well-coached team with a solid defense and they bring back Preston Stone at quarterback. I also have Pitt losing to SMU on the road and move it to 3-5 on the season. The next game is at home against Virginia. Virginia was one of the worst teams in the ACC last season. Virginia went 3-9, but they were also very competitive in a lot of their games, and they had solid wins over North Carolina and Duke. And 4 of Virginia's losses actually came by 3 points or less last season, and they also only lost to a pretty solid Louisville team by 7 points. And if they can find a way to win those closer games, Virginia is potentially a bowl-eligible team. And next season, Virginia actually returned 76% of production, which is top 5 in the country. They did a solid job in the transfer portal, and they brought in the leading receiver from Notre Dame, Chris Tyree. Virginia could possibly step up and make a bowl game. I think Virginia is the type of team that could go 2-10, but they could also be that type of team that makes a bowl game, and I would not be surprised. But I do think Pitt needs a bounce-back win after losing multiple games in a row. And they have this game against Virginia at home, so I have Pitt winning this game and move it to 4-5 on the season. The next game for Pitt is at home against Clemson. I'm personally not too high on Clemson, as most people would be, and I don't think Clemson will make the ACC championship game, but they will still be a solid team with a good defense, kind of like they were last season. Clemson's defense alone should lead them to a win in this game, and I think Cade Klubnik has potential to grow as a quarterback next season. And like I said, I don't think Clemson is a playoff team, and that's just my opinion. But I do have Pitt losing this game and move it to 4-6 on the season. The next game for Pitt will be on the road against Louisville. I kind of look at Louisville and Clemson as similar teams. They could potentially make the ACC championship, but they are not my top teams out of the ACC next season. They are in that top 5 conversation, but not top 3 conversation in my eyes. But Louisville does have potential to have the best defense in the ACC next season. They return a bunch of talent on defense and upgraded even more in the transfer portal. I just don't see Louisville winning the ACC because the offense has concerns and Tyler Shuck is a very injury-prone quarterback. But just like Clemson, Louisville should be a very solid team and the defense should lead them to a win in this game. So I have Pitt losing this game and move it to 4-7 on the season. And the last game of the season for Pitt is on the road against Boston College. I think Boston College is going to be one of the worst teams in the ACC next season. Now I know they won 7 games last season, but the only quality win that they had was against SMU, and that SMU team did not have their star quarterback Preston Stone. Boston College loses talent on defense and they lose their head coach. They are usually a bad football team and I don't expect them to be much better in 2024. We'll see if Thomas Castellanos steps up even more because he is a positive for this team, but I'm not buying it with Boston College and I do expect them to take a step down. And I honestly think Pitt will win this game. So I have Pitt finishing the season with a 2-6 conference record and a 5-7 overall record. I do not think Pitt makes a bowl game, but regardless, I do think they take a step up on the offensive side, and their record should show it. I think Pitt will be in that bowl game conversation, but I do have them barely missing out on bowl eligibility because they still have a lot to clean up. But head coach Pat Narduzzi has a pretty decent track record, so I trust Pitt to take a step up in 2024. And I would not be surprised if they made a bowl game, but there's going to be a lot of solid teams in the ACC, so we shall see. But anyways, you guys let me know how many games you think Pitt will win in 2024 down in the comments below. But that is going to do it for today's video. Let me remind you guys to like the video and also subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. And if you guys love college football, then you'll love this channel, because we upload a ton of college football content and we basically cover everything on this channel. So definitely consider subscribing and also consider joining my Discord server down in the description below. But that is going to do it, guys, and peace out.